The launch of the Trials of the Ancestors is just a few days away and you still need a build. Lucky for you, in this video I will be detailing several League starter builds for you to use during the Trials of the Ancestors. These builds are designed to be fairly cheap while still offering decent damage, clear, and mobility as you level through the axe. Either I've used these builds in the past or they are from some of the best players in the game and should easily get you a great start to the new League. Down in the description, I will be linking all of their builds and channels so you can go to their builds and check them out in their POBs directly. I will also include a link to my Twitch should you have any question about the builds that's in this video that are mine, or if you just want a place to hang out, you can jump in and hang out with me during the launch of the new League. With that said, let's start with the first League starter. Starting this thing off strong, we're going to the Bone Zone. This is Carn's Boneshatter Slayer, and it would be silly not to include the hands down best melee build starting skill in the game. The build is amazing. It's a very cheap League starter with really good damage, great mobility, amazing defenses with insane sustain, and you can clear all content with a small amount of investment. Most importantly, it requires no uniques or cluster jewels, so you can jump in and just scorch all the content as a Slayer. The most expensive part of this build is the axe, but Carn has a full-fledged guide on how to not only level the full build, but also how to craft an axe for every single stage of your journey. Now, a lot of players are afraid of playing melee and it can be a bit scary, but with the design of this build, you are able to stun enemies and stay relatively safe, and since you have the best leeching in the game because you are playing the Slayer, it's a no-brainer that we're recommending this build as a League starter. Now, one quick side note, I did put together a Boneshatter Juggernaut build, which is basically the same concept, but you trade off a lot of your offense for a bit more defense. I'll have that build as well as Carn's build linked down in the description should you want to pick whichever build you prefer. But yeah, best melee build to go, absolutely Boneshatter. Now, this wouldn't be a League starter build video if this video didn't include some form of Righteous Fire, and pohx has done it again, but this time with a Righteous Fire Inquisitor. Now, if you enjoy that smooth leveling with tons of HP, really good regeneration, plus some decent DPS, then look no further than pohx's Righteous Fire Inquisitor. This build is one of those more new player friendly builds as the button inputs are relatively lower than most of the other builds and you are pretty much immortal. Now, I may be over exaggerating a bit there, but this build is inherently designed to be cheap while still offering really good defensive options and clear in pacing. pohx did put together an amazing guide detailing the entire build, so I would highly implore you go check it out if you're interested in playing some Righteous Fire. I think the key takeaway from the Inquisitor versus the Juggernaut is this build is going to be more offensive early, which gives you a lot more easier leveling, and then you scale your defenses later versus the Juggernaut. But alternatively, pohx said that he has his Righteous Fire Juggernaut build being updated, so if you want to go check out that one, I'll have it linked in the description so that you can go check it out if you prefer the Juggernaut playstyle. But ultimately, Righteous Fire is back on the menu, boys, and yeah, we're gonna enjoy this one. Now, if you enjoy not seeing the screen and having an almost free Mage Blood, I got the perfect build for you. And that is the Toxic Rain PathFinder. This build is zoomy since your utility flashes are nearly permanently up. You are ranged, so you're pretty safe, and it requires very little investment to really get it going. With that said, even though you're ranged, this build is actually pretty tanky. You're not face tanking like the Righteous Fire we just talked about, nothing like that, but you will be able to get through the math without feeling like you're going to be one shot off screen. And honestly, that is one of the best things about this build. It's safe, it's cheap, and it's really effective. With that said, the damage is damage over time based, so if you're not a fan of the damage over time build where you have to set up a little bit with setting up the arrows, then this may not be the build for you, but in my opinion, this is one of the most satisfying builds to play in the game. I'm typically not a ranged player, but Zizaran did put together a League starter exactly for this build, and honestly, I only know about this build because I saw him talk about it a few leagues ago. It's a great build and I highly recommend you go check it out, link down in the description. Now, I don't always play mage, but when I do, I love the Elementalist. It's one of my favorite classes in all of Path of Exile, and the Dot Elementlist is an amazing build to play. It's one of those builds where you can basically use the skill through the entire game without having to swap to multiple skills to be able to play it. The last time I played, I tried Tripolar Bear's Dot Elementalist build, and it was amazing. I think I only had to use like 3 button inputs through the mapping phase, had really good defense, and I think it's the only Elementalist build I've ever played and never felt like I was going to constantly die. Great mobility, and probably most importantly, a pretty damn good bosser. Now luckily, Tripolar Bear did put together an updated build a few days ago detailing the build, and it's actually not one of those lazy POB build only videos. It's straight up build guide, so I would highly recommend it. If you're looking for an Elementalist build that's tanky and can do pretty much everything you need for a League starter, go check this video out. Now on to the final build of the video, and I want to cover the HexBlast Miner Sabotuer. I know a lot of people enjoy the mine throwing playstyle, and HexBlast is in my opinion one of the best skills in the game. And the weird thing is, since Sanctum, this style of build has really seen some huge play in the meta as a League starter lately. Palsteron put together an amazing build recently, giving a full breakdown on how to play the build, and here's what to expect. First off, you get very easy gearing. It's a cheap build that can easily take you into mapping with basic investment. Very high damage. HexBlast is one of those skills that weirdly is strong at pretty much all times, which is great. And if you want to turn this into a boss killer, this build is actually versatile enough to do so. Now, when I look through many comments, I always see people talk about how much of a great time that they had playing HexBlast, and it would be criminal not to mention a HexBlast build in this one. This build is one of those builds that have a very unique playstyle, which is always refreshing to play something different, but it still offers respectable defense, great damage, and overall it's a great League starter for pretty much all players who wants to try something different and still be very strong. Link down in the description to this build, go check it out. Alright guys, there you have it. That is my 5 League starter builds for the new Path of Exile Trials of the Ancestor League. These are my personal favorites. I actually use these ones quite a bit when it comes to just playing Path of Exile's new leagues, and I would highly recommend you go check these build videos out if you enjoy them. I wasn't able to include every single ascendancy or class in this build video because, to be quite frank with you guys, these are the ones that I enjoyed and think are really good, but there are a lot of great options out there. Just keep in mind, this is what I like to play when I play a League starter Path of Exile, and these are all amazing builds by amazing creators. With that said guys, thank you for watching the video. Don't forget, I will be live streaming over on Twitch on the League start, so feel free to stop by and ask me any questions or just come hang out. And with that said, thanks for watching guys. Later.